Halo is the first shooter that I have ever played. Well, Halo 3 to be exact, and it was the game that made me fall in love with the genre. Even growing up with COD, Halo always had something so distinct about it, and you could resort to it having alien life involved, but I think there was something so much more special. The music, the worlds, the weapon variety. Every time I completed one of the campaigns, I walked away feeling something completely different. With the Combat Evolved remake out, I thought what better time than to go back and replay every single mainline campaign to finally determine which campaign actually stands above the rest. I spoke about Campaign Evolved in my last video if you want to check it out because I'm not including it on this list. This wasn't as easy as it may seem, but to make it a tad more interesting, we're going to rank them from worst to best. Without further ado, let's go. Disclaimer, I likely don't talk about every single detail in each campaign. I mainly cover things I feel strongly about, positive or negative, so if I miss some stuff, it's not because I'm hating, but I'd be here all day if I listed every single feature of every single entry. I promise you this video won't be me just talking shit, but I think I deserve a pass for Halo 5. In terms of campaign, this game is an embarrassment. 343's trilogy clearly never had any true story arc, and I do think that this is because of them cracking under pressure after getting so much hate. The story takes its biggest nosedive yet though. I actually can't find anything redeemable if I'm being completely honest. While I find Halo 4 confusing, which I'll get into after, this one is definitely way worse. This game also has a time jump that isn't really explained. It's already hard enough considering how confusing the story has gotten, except this time around the game basically relies on the player to keep up with novels to even understand who you're seeing. No one who only plays the games is familiar with Blue Team at all. At least in 4 you feel confused with Chief as he just woke up from cryo. Here the game expects you to already know who everyone is. It isn't interesting either. Cortana had a sacrifice at the end of 4. Why is she back? Matter of fact, I barely even know how she's back. I don't know. Listen, if you like it, I'm actually happy for you, but I can't tolerate the writing personally. This is a numbered Halo game, where Master Chief is playable in 3 missions out of 15. Do I have to elaborate? And it doesn't need to be 100% Chief at all, that's not what I'm implying. However, if you do throw in another playable character, can they at least be someone interesting? The Arbiter worked because he had an incredible arc. ODST worked because the entire game was built around a different perspective. Locke just never earns the amount of time the game gives him. Now for the gameplay, meh. I'm not really a fan of how it's a squad-based shooter even on single player. It feels like the game doesn't punish you enough for dying since a lot of times you can just be revived. Other times, the AI teammates don't even function properly and completely lack any sort of common sense when you request to be revived. Speaking of AI, yo, I absolutely get aimbotted by any turrets and hunters in this game. Even with the insane movement, some things are just unavoidable. And while we're talking about movement, I mean, it's more of an important question to be raised when talking about multiplayer obviously, but I actually like sprinting when it feels normal, as well as the inclusion of sliding and mantling. The armor abilities is where I'm a little bit more mixed. I don't think I like just having them by default. While it does feel more suitable for Halo 5's gameplay, I like the Halo 4 or Reach concept of having to choose one specific ability a little bit better. There are some things I genuinely like in this game though. I can't really use this as a compliment since it's the bare minimum, but I like how the Covenant actually sounds like the Covenant in this game. The graphical fidelity is really strong, and I think these Sang Helio missions look really good. You know what, I love the intro cutscene of Fireteam Osiris putting in work on the Covenant too. Seeing the lore accurate Spartan combat and agility was dope. It actually gets you pretty excited to play the game. Until you actually start playing. Halo 4 is a game. That's all I got. Halo 4 to me is a game that I thought I liked a lot more until I played it again. I actually had little enjoyment during my playthrough if I'm being completely honest. Halo 4 is a complete switch up. Since the trilogy is complete and Chief was stranded in space, there is a 4.5-year time jump and you are awoken by Cortana as the Covenant invades the remaining of the ship. This is the first game in the series where the story has you questioning what the fuck is actually going on, whether it is the lack of context or the confusing Forerunner talk. One half of this game's plot constantly makes you feel like you missed a game's worth of story. Prometheans are interesting at face value. They seem like they could be interesting, but it feels far from the truth. Like the didact is just... no one cares, bro. On the other hand, you are dealing with a deteriorating Cortana who is malfunctioning more and more as the game progresses. The aspect of this game is interesting because part of me dislikes it because it doesn't feel like a Halo story anymore, but it does further dive into the human side of Master Chief. You know, seeing him care for someone, and I say that with an asterisk, is a very different change since he is only ever concerned with the fate of the universe rather than his relationship with Cortana. Well, I guess Halo 3 has a little bit of that, and look, Chief is obviously a human, but it's a pretty underexplored side of him until now. The scene where Cortana asks,
"Promise me you'll figure out which one of us is the machine."
It poses such a good question because Chief is practically just as programmed, if not more than she is. He doesn't have a life outside of what he's ordered to do by the UNSC. Near the end, the game starts presenting their relationship in a much more romantic way than I personally ever interpreted it. Like near the end when Cortana touches his arm, we're talking about some "I've waited so long to do that." Like, I don't know, maybe I'm tweaking. Cortana has always shown emotion throughout the trilogy, but it was usually tied to protecting humanity, completing the mission, and keeping Chief alive. Here, those emotions become a lot more personal, and that's where the game starts to lose me a little bit. Objectively speaking, Halo 4 looks very impressive, but graphical fidelity isn't the same thing as identity. Halo 4 looks, sounds, and plays nothing like the Halo that Bungie established. It's almost like Zack Snyder took over the franchise. For starters, the art style went hyper-realistic. The world feels way more gray, and while you are on a completely different planet, it still doesn't feel like the same universe as something like this. While I'm actually one who likes the newer look of Forerunner architecture like in Infinite or Campaign Evolved, this look being just white and light blue looks kinda garbage to me. It's a completely different vision that doesn't really track with where it was going even throughout the Bungie games. Then the sounds. The weapon sounds have no real oomph to them. The Covenant sound effects no longer sound unique as they lack a lot of personality. They just sound like any other monster or alien. Like the grunts used to provide this comedic relief, but it's completely out the window in this game. This is also the first Halo game where I feel like shooting the guns don't feel that satisfying. It already sucks when they don't sound good, but a lot of them just don't feel distinct. The DMR, battle rifle, and light rifle all end up filling almost the exact same role, so instead of every weapon having a clear identity, they start feeling pretty interchangeable. Then sprint, of course. Sprint in this game feels like you're ice skating, and it also stops quite often. It's more of an issue on multiplayer, but I just don't really like the feeling of sprint in this game. It feels like they've made certain areas extra big on purpose just to compensate for it fitting in the game. It's something that I'll get into a little bit more when I talk about reach, but the equipment is something that isn't quite mastered yet in this game. I think a lot of it just slows down the fights. The Prometheans also never clicked with me. Fighting knights, watchers, constantly reviving enemies, and crawlers rushing you just wasn't nearly as satisfying as fighting the Covenant in the previous games. And I know we're not on a ring in this game, but it's not really a justified replacement gameplay wise to the Flood. Even the Covenant didn't play like this in the past games. 343 in previous games didn't really do them properly. They feel genuinely less tactical by far, and the reactions feel way more random. Even the shield jackals just felt so much less threatening. It felt like the shield was just a visual aid for some extra health. You shoot them a few times and their shield drops right away. I know I mentioned a lot of issues here, but there were some enjoyable moments, of course. I liked the Reclaimer mission a lot. Getting on and off the Mammoth to fight in super open areas, it actually felt like classic Halo. I also enjoyed the second last mission, Composer, seeing the panic in the station as Chief is rushing to stop the Didact when unfortunately, the whole station's crew gets absolutely vaporized. Chief also has some cool moments in the cutscenes too, but he is generally just badass. Using the Mantis was super fun, and flying in the fighter jet was so cool in the last mission. But Halo 4 to me feels like Chief waking up from cryo in a completely different universe. That's about the best way I can describe it. I just want to throw in a huge gap between this game and the last one. Halo 3 ODST is a game I find very interesting. Honestly, I feel like I don't have too much to say about it, because while I still consider it somewhat mainline, it is kind of a side game too. The cast in this game was entirely new at the time, and in terms of gameplay, it's literally just Halo 3, which I'm going to discuss a bit further when we get to that game. I think this is a solid campaign for certain. It isn't too long, and it often switches perspectives, which I find refreshing. This game plays like a detective story. As an ODST, you drop into New Mombasa, but when everything goes wrong, you wake up hours later and have to retrace the steps at what happened with the rest of your squad. You actually do feel much more helpless in this game. For the first time in this series, you aren't Master Chief or even a Spartan for that matter. You're just another soldier trying to survive. Not only are you exploring an area that pretty much already got completely wiped out, but the atmosphere of this game is just so powerful in the New Mombasa sections. And this is what I find most special about this game. The tone of this game is very different from the rest because it feels very bittersweet in a way. When searching for these clues, it's night, it's raining, and the soundtrack offers a lot of softer sounding songs rather than the usual grand orchestral pieces. I actually think that this game's soundtrack is my absolute favorite from the series upon replay because of how much different instrumentation it offers. Like, there are so many songs that just pull on the heartstrings. So like I said earlier, the gameplay is basically just Halo 3, but there are a few changes. As an ODST, you don't actually have a Spartan's energy shields, which definitely amplifies the helplessness you feel in this game. You also don't have the ability to use any equipment either. Now, while they do remove some things, we do have some unique features here too. For starters, this is the first Halo game to have a map that can actually place navigation points. You can also turn on night vision, which helps highlight potential important clues or objects in the game. And hey, we have silenced SMGs and pistols, which almost helps support the grounded and more stealthy feel of the game. I mean, as an ODST, it's not really ideal to go in guns blazing on some brutes. A detail that I did notice is you throw grenades very differently in this game. I'm assuming the creative decision behind it was to show you in another way you're not a Spartan, because when you throw a grenade there's much more of an arc rather than the laser accurate throws that you're used to in the other games. There are some standouts in this campaign for sure too. I really love defending the rooftop on NMPD HQ. You've spent so much time wandering New Mombasa alone as the rookie, then suddenly you're holding off Covenant with your squad on a rooftop. It's one of the few missions where ODST feels like a full-scale Halo battle. Coastal Highway was a great finale too. Escorting the engineer through the city while everything is falling apart is just a blast. And it felt like the perfect way to end the campaign. It really does feel like whenever they have a mission on some long ass road with vehicles involved, I'm probably gonna love it. But New Mombasa is what sticks with me more than anything in this game. It gives me such a weird feeling of mystery, despair, and somehow comfort at the same time. I don't even know how to explain it. The first time playing you have no clue who's alive or who's dead, but there's still something beautiful about exploring a city that's already been devastated by the Covenant. And as I said it before, the music does so much to support that feeling. I actually loved returning to New Mombasa after every flashback mission because, as hectic as those missions can get, coming back to the city almost feels like a calming reset before diving into the next memory. The story itself is solid, but that's all. I don't think it's trying to compete with a Halo 2 narratively, and honestly, it doesn't need to. It feels more like a passion project that exists to show what the Human Covenant War looked like from the perspective of ordinary soldiers, and I believe that it does just that, mixed in with some incredible atmosphere. Halo Infinite. Halo Infinite, I could confidently say, is 343 or Halo Studios' best rendition of Halo that they've done so far. It had a rough launch for sure, but this campaign in particular is actually really fun. If I'm going solely off of the fun that I had, I may even consider putting this higher on the list. This time, the focus is back on the Master Chief. The story has some cohesion this time too. If this game was Halo 5, they probably would have cut out the whole sequence in the beginning and just made you guess whether Chief and Atriox actually fought. We're back on a Halo ring, and this time we are free to explore it all. No, I'm lying. But you do have a decently open area to adventure. It's a destroyed part of the ring, so it's cut off from the rest, but it keeps you busy for sure. The gameplay in this game is actually great. Halo Infinite feels like Halo in almost every way, and that is already a huge step forward. Being on a Halo ring is unmatched for a reason. The mystery of them, the power they behold, the beautiful nature of them, and all in all, the variety in what it offers. Visually, it looks solid. It's not great, but there are its moments where it shines for sure. I think the sky almost always looks incredible, but when you're flying high or driving quick, you can definitely see textures popping in and out. While I love exploring the map in this game, man, do we like the variety that a Halo ring has. The lack of biomes did make a lot of moments blend together, which kinda sucked. I can look back on moments in this game and not know exactly when it took place. In some games, which I mentioned later, if I think of a specific mission, it's a lot easier for me to pinpoint when that mission was solely based off the type of area I was exploring. It's still a very good open world, but for how much you explore, a snowy or sandy area would have benefited a ton. With the new grapple hook being added, vehicles aren't always a necessity. I spent so much time making my way through areas just by swinging on trees or rocks. You can really get lost just messing around, and there are side quests to keep you entertained too. These are pretty copy and paste, but if you like the core gameplay, you'll be fine for sure. but even the main objectives start feeling repetitive after a while. There's only so many times I can walk into a room, kill everyone, and then have the weapon open another door for me before it starts to feel like I'm doing the same thing over and over. The new equipment though definitely keeps the game refreshing without redefining the whole gameplay loop, but it does feel really broken at times, I'm not gonna lie. Like I said, the gameplay is awesome and I love the equipment, but the equipment does ruin the tension in a lot of moments. You have access to all of your equipment simultaneously, but really that grapple hook is the saving grace. Once you upgrade the cooldown and can stun with it, it becomes a weapon in itself, and a main one at that. There are so many situations where I would have been fucked in previous Halo games, but here I can just grapple away, stun an enemy, throw a shield down, or completely reposition myself. And that is really fun, but it also means some of that tension Halo is known for having isn't always there anymore. And as for movement, they kept sprint, sliding, and clamber, which I really have no issue with when they're done well and fit the level design. The other flashy stuff is bonus equipment. If only the story kept up with the gameplay, Infinite might have even placed higher. Infinite is trying to recover from Halo 5, but it also has to carry Halo 5's corpse behind it. They basically solve everything from that game off screen. Cortana was deleted again, and somehow half of the story is still centered around her, and everyone else that was introduced in Halo 5 is just gone. It's like so many of the major events that occur are things that we only hear about. There's so much missing context that it feels like I'm playing the aftermath of a story I never even got to experience. So while I really like the foundation they laid out here, Halo Infinite still shoots itself in the foot because of the story it inherited. And speaking of what they did carry over, we have the Banished from Halo Wars 2. Now the Banished I do like. While they may seem random as fuck, at least you can learn about them through a game. I actually find the Banished very interesting. In Eshram, I like him, he has a presence to him, and I like the way he talks about Chief. The relationship throughout the game is probably one of the more decent parts of the story, but come on bro, Atriox. You spend the entire beginning of the game showing me this dude beat the absolute shit out of Master Chief, then tell me he's dead, and now I'm fighting homeboy who got more bark than bite? Atriox genuinely had me feeling the same way I felt about Thanos, dude. I know y'all seen that clip from Halo Wars 2. While seeing the human side of Chief in Halo 4 was solid, I love Infinite's take on it a lot more. Instead of Cortana, Echo 216 gives us a breath of fresh air. You know, we do often see Marines on the ring in past games, but a lot of the times they have super funny dialogue or are there for the sake of world building. But with this guy, we get a much deeper dive on how it would feel to be in Chief's situation as a regular ass human. And Chief gives him the greatest fucking pep talk ever that not only motivates him, nah bro, it motivated me, reminding me that it's okay to mess up. It's okay to lose. It's human, but we don't quit. We keep going.
I failed her. I will not fail you.
That is literally why I fell in love with this character. But let's take Chief completely out of the equation here. Halo Reach, a game centered around sacrifice and tragedy. This is a game that I could totally understand someone having as their favorite in the series. My experience with Reach has been pretty interesting because prior to my most recent replay, I thought it was great, but maybe a little overrated. The biggest draw of Reach is watching Noble Team slowly get picked apart one by one as the game progresses. But even with the ending, I didn't feel it the way a lot of diehard fans did. I always thought I just wasn't attached enough to the characters to really care. Upon replay though, that opinion changed quite a bit. Knowing what was coming made me appreciate the quieter moments between Noble Teams so much more. I started noticing the little interactions and bits of dialogue that gave each member their own identity. George feels like the heart of the team. Carter is the dependable leader. Kat is the brains behind the operation. June is calm and collected. Emil is by far the most intimidating member of the team, never afraid to get up close and personal. And then there's us, Noble 6. Just like ODST, Bungie puts you in the shoes of the main character. We don't see their face, nor do we really get much background into who they are. I'm kind of indifferent to this just because at times it feels like the character is always quiet and bland, but Noble 6 did actually have some dialogue. He was also regarded as the Lone Wolf, which is such a cool name considering how the game ends. Halo Reach I can say is super ambitious without discrediting other games. I say this because Bungie knew it would be their last Halo game. They could have just rushed something out the window, but they didn't. They tried a lot, and even if there were some things I didn't like, I still respect it so much. Something I have to give Reach a ton of credit for is the world building. This game is immersive. Like, really immersive. Reach feels like a real place that's actually worth protecting. The cutscenes help a lot with that too. They have this almost documentary-like style where it feels like there's an actual cameraman following Noble Team around. The camera shakes, it moves naturally, and it makes everything feel grounded in a way the previous games didn't. Reach itself is also just a beautiful planet. It feels like every other mission has you standing on some cliff or overlooking a massive landscape just taking it all in. It wants you to take in the vibe of the world while also differentiating itself from the nature of a Halo ring. Even the wildlife roaming around makes the planet feel so alive, and I love that some of them will attack both you and the Covenant. It's a tiny detail, but it goes a long way in making Reach feel believable. Then you have Long Night of Solace. As frustrating as that mission can be at times, I have to give it credit because it's the first Halo game that actually lets you fight a full-scale battle in space. Flying a saber through orbit while a war is happening around you is one of the coolest set pieces Bungie ever made. Even if I got my ass kicked a few times, I honestly don't mind because I got another excuse to play through one of the most memorable missions in the series. I also think the grittier art direction fits well because it still has the core Halo art style, but it does differ a bit, which I can tolerate. Reach isn't trying to tell some triumphant story about saving humanity. It's about watching humanity lose, so the dirtier, more grounded look complements that tone really well, but it still looks like Halo. In terms of gameplay, Reach is a bit of a mixed bag for me. I'm not a huge fan of the equipment in this game, but there's moments where it shines. Like when we first got the jetpacks and you could pretty much choose to skip certain floors or areas as a whole. I like that you're forced to commit to one ability at a time, but things like armor lock and even sprint sometimes kill the tension of a fight for me, and the hologram one just feels useless. So I played each game on heroic, and on this list I had the most difficulty with Reach. Now I don't know why that is, but certain areas were just a pain in the ass. I remember the end of Pillar of Autumn when you hop on that Mac gun. Yeah, the only way I could actually beat it was by getting out of the gun and hiding behind the platform until Keys told me to shoot the huge Covenant ship. Many moments in this game felt like I had to shoot my gun, then hide and heal, and it was just rinse and repeat for 10 minutes. Maybe it was a skill issue for some, I don't know, but I'm just throwing it out there. But while there were those difficult parts, boy were there some highs. Like I mentioned earlier, Long Night of Solace was awesome. And then there's the scene where Halsey reveals Cortana. The second that Halo 3 theme starts playing, it instantly reminds you what this is all for. I also loved New Alexandria too. While it did kind of drag for me, I liked the concept of going building to building in this rainy ODST-like atmosphere, taking down the communication jammers. And as frustrated as I got with the final section of Pillar of Autumn, I loved the music playing in the back as you're fighting off the final waves before the big conclusion. And of course, the Lone Wolf ending too is peak. It's so dope too because it had people actually trying to beat it back in the day before, inevitably finding out there was no winning that battle. I'm a big fan of this ending because it shows the context of what led to Combat Evolved, but it also leaves you thinking. You see Noble 6 fall and get bombarded, but many argue that the energy sword never stabbed him. Technically, he may still be alive, but I think that's a question best left unanswered.
Cortana, all I need to know is, did we lose them?
I think we both know the answer to that.
Halo Combat Evolved is the game that started everything. It's the reason I'm able to make this video, and it's the reason first-person shooters have become what they are now. Easily one of the most important video games of all time. What makes this game so special is the sense of discovery. This game lays the foundation down for what Halo is all about. And man, when you beat this game, it really feels like you are just scratching the surface, which is actually the truth. Beating this game makes you want nothing more than to just hop into Halo 2. Thankfully, I didn't have to wait 3 years. I could just click Halo 2 and tap the quick start button. Right away, Bungie establishes that Chief isn't just another soldier. Everything happening around him tells you he's humanity's best chance before you even fire your first shot. The first mission is a great intro, but where your jaw really drops is once you crash land and step out of that escape pod. Pure atmosphere hits you. The noises of the wind and the waterfall. The feeling you get when you first step onto the ring is unforgettable. But what really makes Combat Evolved special is the sense of mystery. Bungie tells you just enough to keep you asking questions. At first, Halo seems like this beautiful alien ring you're trying to survive on, then you slowly uncover abandoned Forerunner structures and eventually realize the truth about the ring. It was built to destroy life. That constant feeling of uncovering another layer of the mystery is something I don't think any Halo game has ever replicated quite the same way. Like just looking up and seeing the rest of the ring loop above you, This game looks phenomenal for its time and honestly still holds up decently well. Funny enough, the two most memorable moments are getting on the ring and escaping it before it gets destroyed and you're in that warthog, oh my god. But in between the beginning and the end, you get to see so much. Combat Evolved shows you that the ring has a mixed bag. You get to see snowy areas, open fields, mountains, and the Forerunner architecture. There's so much detail that goes into all of it. This is what Halo CE does best, the world building. Unfortunately, what it does best is also what bites it in the ass. You see, within these insane areas, you have your more linear sections where you are walking into different rooms, except a lot of them are literally copy and paste renders of the previous room you walked in, and it happens quite often. Gameplay wise, Combat Evolved still feels shockingly smooth. They nailed exactly how Halo is supposed to play on their first release. It isn't just a brain dead shooter and it plays very tactically. Military grade weapons and Covenant weapons have their own pros and cons. My thing with this game in particular is that the pistol is the only common weapon you will be using for about 90% of the game. Unless you have yourself a sniper, shotgun, or RPG, reload that pistol and get to work. It is the only gun worth using for most of the missions, and outside of a few particular situations, they just can't compete with the pistol. I mean, even the AR is a piece of shit unless you're spraying the flood down. Look, I don't mind if there are a ton of weapons in the game, but when one of them basically overrule the utility and reliability of everything else, and I say reliability because you don't always have an RPG or sniper, then yeah, that's a bit of an issue. Other than that, I mean, the AI in this game is impressively responsive to how players move. Jackals stay hidden behind shields, hunters are far more aggressive, elites are more strategic. I mean, I've played Call of Duty games that are 2 decades older than this, and even the enemies there can't respond properly to a grenade being thrown at them. Bungie making it work this well in 2001 is genuinely a hats off moment. Even something as simple as combat dialogue goes a long way. Marines are constantly talking shit, grunts are freaking out, elites are barking orders. It makes every battle feel like an actual fight instead of just waves of enemies. The story isn't at its peak yet here, but it lays a damn good foundation. Learning the true intent of the ring, stopping the activation, destroying it, and in consequence, basically accepting that they are ultimately just getting started with it all. Chief and Cortana just learned so much and no one could really predict where it would go from here. Halo could have ended right there and it would have been perfect damn near. Great ending, but enough ambiguity left to expand on the lore. I could also praise the soundtrack a ton because once again it laid the foundation for the rest of the games to come, but I feel like it's kind of a unanimous opinion that any Bungie Halo game has an incredible soundtrack from start to finish. Yeah, just to add in some extra moments that are insanely memorable, obviously discovering what Halo is actually built for, stumbling into the flood and watching the game suddenly transform into survival horror, then having to put Keys out of his misery, man, even after all these years, that sequence still sticks with me. My only true complaint with Combat Evolved is that while the world itself feels incredibly diverse, actually playing through it could become pretty repetitive, especially on replay. Between the copy and paste interiors and the pistol overshadowing most of the sandbox, parts of the game start feeling more samey than they should. I also think the way vehicles control feel kinda shitty, but that's so minute, so it's whatever. This game is exactly the reason Halo is held to such a high standard. Combat Evolved set the bar, and fortunately enough for players, it has been topped on different occasions. Halo 2 is the blueprint that you want to follow when making a sequel. Apart from maybe preferring the open exploration of Halo 1 and the shitty difficulty at times, there's not a single thing that Halo 2 doesn't do better than the first in my opinion. And I want to preface, I am very aware of how many people prefer 1's campaign over 2, but I don't care, I'm standing on it. If I had to give most of the credit to what puts this campaign so high on the list for me, it would have to go to the actual story itself. Writing wise, Halo 2 is the game in the series that takes it to the next level. I love switching back and forth between Chief and the Arbiter. Notice how when you have 2 good characters, the game can let Chief share the spotlight? I think stories tend to thrive a lot more when you get to properly experience 2 very interesting sides of a story, and as it progresses you see that their motivations end up lining up with one another. I also loved learning more about the Covenant in this game, seeing as they were a religion and being led by the prophets, who each look the same but all act differently, and even all of their names being super ironic and the complete opposite of the character. Like Truth? This fucking guy was the biggest lie. The story is timeless to me. The older I get, I see myself catching a lot more of the different details on my replays. I've started to really appreciate Arbiter's character more and more as I age, seeing his mental shatter and start to question the literal propaganda that has been getting pushed to the whole Covenant is so crazy. Halo 2 is where the series stops being human versus alien and starts becoming a story about power, religion, and manipulation. I can probably unravel the writing for another 5 minutes in itself, but I'm sure you've probably played it before. What about the actual game itself? And yeah, like I said, a massive improvement from the first. Halo 2 expands the sandbox, and you now have a primary that actually lets you shoot an enemy from more than 5 feet away. We get a battle rifle, a new SMG, the carbine, the energy sword is finally usable, and with the brutes being a new enemy type, we get the gravity hit. Nope, that can't be used, they blue ball us until Halo 3. One of those main selling points too is the ability to dual wield certain weapons together. This game still feels like Halo, just more polished in every way. Like even the vehicles actually control 10 times better. With the Arbiter being introduced, he also becomes the other playable character in the game, and his missions always add in some extra spice since you spawn in with Covenant weapons, but you also have a sneaky little active camo that has a cooldown. And while it doesn't last super long, it always makes it feel all the more precious to use as you start figuring out how to time your uses properly to navigate around sections with ease. And I'm going to specify some sections with ease because this game is actually fucking difficult at times. Like the difficulty of Halo 2 is ridiculous on Legendary and even heroic in some sections, especially when fighting all of the Flood. Like bro, I remember getting visibly upset at certain sections as the Arbiter when I didn't have an energy sword anymore because it genuinely felt unwinnable. There really is no definitive difficulty to play Halo 2 on because every difficulty jump feels like the game is actively punishing you for wanting a challenge. So in that regard, I won't lie, this game could be miserable. To me though, the missions of Halo 2 are designed really well. I actually enjoy every mission in this game. They aren't super open here as they tend to be more linear, but it is also less repetitive despite being more linear because environments and objectives change frequently, so it doesn't always feel like a walking simulator. I know some moments aren't totally loved, like especially those gondola areas, to which I do think they could be a bit quicker, but other than that, I really do enjoy every part. Just to throw in some of the craziest moments in the game, since this game moment for moment might actually be the craziest. Of course, Chief giving the Covenant back their bomb is crazy. I think it actually might be the coldest way to ever open up a video game by far. And the remaster did that whole scene so much justice too. I love crossing the bridge on Metropolis in a Scorpion. I love the cutscene of them discovering Delta Halo, as well as just that whole mission. The meeting between Chief and the Arbiter with the Gravemind has so much aura, and while you're still processing what's going on, you get to see the twist that the Prophets order Tartarus to eliminate all of the elites. Like, come on! The cliffhanger of Chief leaving Cortana behind, boarding the Forerunner ship, and simply responding with,
"Sir, finishing this fight."
Dude, that ending still sends chills down my spine. I know I'm gonna forget some moments, but man, that cliffhanger gets me so hyped. Halo 2 somehow manages to tell one of the most ambitious stories in gaming, and then ends right when everything is about to explode. I'm sure it frustrated people back then, but man, what a setup for what's coming next.
They let me pick. Did I ever tell you that? Choose whichever Spartan I wanted.
And what a payoff it was. To most, if not all, this isn't a super big surprise. Halo 3 is what I consider to be the best campaign in the series and probably one of the greatest of all time. I don't really think I have a complaint with this game as it sought out everything it was meant to do while raising the bar even higher. Halo 3 is the climax of the trilogy. After Combat Evolved introduced the world and Halo 2 expanded it, Halo 3 delivers on everything those games spent years building toward, to conclude the trilogy centered around the Prophets and the Great Journey. While it has its reasons for being one, the biggest reason Halo 3 sits at number 1 for me is how emotional it is. No other campaign in the series makes me feel the way this one does. Like yo, I could really cry or get goosebumps at the majority of the big moments in the game. The way Halo 3 opens up with Cortana's speech about why she chose Chief, all while watching what we assume to be Chief falling up the sky. Like, you can't tell me this game isn't the pinnacle of media. Yes, all of media. Chief surviving that fall perfectly proves Cortana's point of him being super lucky. But while getting up, Chief spots something.
Chief, wait! The Arbiter's with us!
Come on now. You've got enough to worry about without you two trying to kill each other.
Were it so easy.
Yeah, video's done. Halo 3 pulls no punches and wastes no time getting into everything you've been anticipating. Seeing these two characters interact and the tension being at an all-time high gives you genuine goosebumps, especially with the music in the back. There's no time to explain, they shut up and get right to work. Off bat, this game looks phenomenal. Even for today, it's faithful to what Halo looks like, but made such a big graphical jump. The detail is immaculate. Halo 3 feels like Bungie finally mastered the formula in every aspect, except for the story. Halo 2 still has the edge on that, but that's because it's no longer about building and more focused on the unfolding of everything. But man, the gameplay is at its best in this game. Introducing a few more new weapons and much more equipment, this time around we have pick-upable items like the iconic bubble shield, deployable cover, and even the power drain. This just adds a lot of spice to the sandbox but doesn't change the core gameplay like certain other games that came after this one. And while I did say this for Halo 2 as well, I mean it about 10 times more, that every single mission is so good.
So good.
I find them flawless, genuinely. The difficulty is actually very balanced this time around to where I wouldn't mind if Legendary was a tad bit more challenging, but maybe that's just because Halo 2 made you literally go to hell and back. I feel that since the campaign was definitely shorter, it kind of made each mission feel all the more momentous. My first experience with Halo was Savo Highway. It is the perfect representation of Halo's sandbox and unpredictability. I could literally play through that mission over and over and over and never fail to enjoy myself. And what about the Storm, where you would rally up all the Marines with RPGs on the mongooses and take out the Scarab? These moments are literally burned into my memory. You see, Halo 3 has those hype moments, but this game wouldn't be deemed emotional if there were only highs. The arc is where you do experience some highs, but man, the events that unfold here are more shocking than anything. One minute, you're tearing across the battlefield in tanks and hornets with Halo sandbox firing on all cylinders. The next, everything starts falling apart. Johnson being captured instantly raises the stakes because for the first time it feels like Chief could actually lose. Everyone's split up, Truth is getting closer to activating the rings, and suddenly you're not just fighting to win anymore, you're now one slip up away from the galaxy paying the price. And you know it's serious when you team up with the Flood to stop the Covenant. I don't even know how many more moments I could boast about without getting repetitive, man. Halo 3 understands payoff better than almost any game I've played. Everything Halo 2 spent hours building on finally comes together here. Arbiter finally gets his revenge on Truth after being betrayed by the Covenant he devoted his life to. Then, just when you think humanity has finally won, the Flood become the final obstacle. Every victory in Halo 3 is immediately followed by another roadblock, and that's exactly why the ending lands so hard. The mission Cortana is one of the darkest in the trilogy. After hearing her voice throughout the game, finally reaching her feels earned. It isn't some giant spectacle either, it's just Chief refusing to leave her behind. Then, right when it finally feels like everyone might actually survive, my boy Johnson, bro. It's one last reminder that Halo 3 never gives you a victory without asking for something in return. Everything feels cinematic, and a lot of that credit is due to the soundtrack. Now obviously you've heard me boast about the OSTs a bunch in this video, but my boy Marty did his thing here. Obviously he brings back a bunch of classics, but Halo 3 carved out its own musical identity with that One Final Effort or Finish the Fight piano medley. As soon as you hear those first notes hit, you know exactly what game you're playing. And I adore how it gets scattered throughout various missions too, like he's playing that song in your head so that by the end, the theme lives with you. And once you hop in that Warthog and start driving off that ring, everything hits you. This trilogy ends the way it starts, escaping the ring, avoiding the explosion, getting onto the ship. You are watching the trilogy end right before your very eyes, and at the time, it seemed like it may have been the end of Halo. The Warthog just barely makes it off the ring, and as they land on the ship, only the front half actually make it through. So while the Arbiter makes it back safely, Chief and Cortana are both stranded in space, and this is where we get our iconic line.
Wake me when you need me.
I could deadass cry right now, bro. The ending has it all. It has closure, it has a sense of safety, but also feels so ambiguous. The Chief is stranded, and if Halo 4 never happened, who knows if he would actually be okay. The distress signal went out, but as Cortana said, it would take a very long time before someone reached them. But then the more human side of me can't help but think about the Arbiter. After everything they went through together, he has no idea whether Chief is even alive. I don't know, something about that just gets me. If the series of Halo ended right here, and while we have gotten amazing entries since, I believe that the series would have probably been perceived so much better, which says a lot considering how highly regarded it still is. This series means so much to me, but if I'm giving it to one game, Halo 3 takes the cake for the campaign, and that's without me even discussing how perfect its multiplayer is.